everybody. My name is Tara Lutman. I'm co-founding partner at GoGlobal. GoGlobal works with technology startups to help them grow, scale, and expand around the world. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Dr. Sarper Tanli. He is one of our business partners. He's one of our mentors. And the reason I wanted to introduce you to Dr. Sarper today is because we often talk about our network at GoGlobal, and we talk about how wonderful they are, their level of expertise. Our clients rave about our network, but if you're new to GoGlobal, you may not know what that means. So today, I wanted to put a face to our network by introducing you to Dr. Sarper. So just a little bit of background. Actually, I'm going to have Sarper tell you about himself. And maybe that's a good place to jump in. So we met, so I'm going to call you Sarper now since we're friends. So we met Sarper actually through another one of our partners in Dubai. And it has been such a delight to work with you, to exchange projects with you. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But so that our viewers can understand more about you, could you please give us a little bit of your background, how you ended up in Dubai, but where you started, so that we can get some context for what you're doing now. So let's go back a little bit.
Thanks for the opportunity to share. So I've been in healthcare management for 30 years, but the journey started as I'm a medical doctor, and I only practiced 2 years in Turkey. And after that, I moved to management full-time. I went back to school, got my master's degree, and then I couldn't stop. I went back to school again, got my PhD. So these are all in healthcare management. During that time, I was able to work a little bit in Turkey, but then I moved to US in Houston, Texas. I worked in the management of Houston Methodist Hospital, which is one of the leading academic medical centers in the US. I was there for 5 to 6 years. Then opportunities came, and I wanted to go back to Turkey, specifically the areas that I want to focus on, which was more building hospitals and clinics. So I moved back to Turkey. I started a couple of new brands and hospitals or companies, and these are all most of them are from scratch. So some of the major hospitals that exist today that I was there at the beginning. I worked in Turkey for 7 years, and then I had an opportunity to work with Harvard Medical International in Boston, and that was more on looking into supporting different developments and organizations. And that was the reason, actually, I came to Dubai almost 18 years ago. I worked for in the world's first free zone healthcare city. It's called Dubai Healthcare City. And I was one of the first 4 people to start that, from planning, setting up the structure, setting up the systems and managements and regulations, all of that. Then I had an opportunity to go back and work for my previous company, Houston Methodist, which they were trying to expand globally and to do different things for the global level, not only Houston, Texas level. So I started Houston Methodist Global Office in Dubai and did many projects in the region. Region is the Gulf region, so Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar mostly. And those are projects that related to touch to education, working with the government, private sector, building up hospitals, clinics, and managing them, etc. So quite a busy times with Methodist. And finally, last 5 years ago, I moved to more on the back to operations side, but also for investment side of things. So I work with and for one of the private equity firms that's focusing on healthcare only, healthcare investments, very specialized. And as well as that, I managed one of their investments, which was a regional healthcare, home healthcare services. And with that, I wanted to start, I started utilizing Digital Health Solutions more and more. And I developed more interest in innovation, MedTech, HealthTech areas. That's how we can take it to the markets and overall. So last year or so, I own my own company, Diginova Health Solutions, which works with the companies that already commercialize solutions to help them come to this market.
So whenever I hear your story, Sarper, I wonder how you got this all done in one lifetime, to be honest. But I think it's important to hear the story about how you got to where you are. And one of the things that GoGlobal is really proud of is mobilizing resources so that technology can grow, so that these solutions to the biggest challenges that we're seeing in the world right now, technology and innovation provide solutions at scale to these problems. And I think someone like you is a really good example. Your original education is in, as a medical doctor, but you put business on top of that, operations on top of that, management on top of that, now technology, innovation. So I think it's a really good example of what we mean when we say mobilizing resources. It's bringing all these elements in an ecosystem together to address a problem or a challenge. So you're a really great example of this. I'm glad that we have the chance to highlight, your story and how this happened. So can you, on that note then, can you give us an example of some of the problems you're seeing solved by technology? Some of what you're seeing?
Yeah, so on the technology side, that when it's a quite wide area. I think that sometimes we immediately think technology should solve population health-related problems. But technology, when we come to the health, so my expertise is healthcare. So when I say technology, anything related to the healthcare, so nothing else that I can talk at the moment. But when we talk about technology, there are so many things that it could be utilized in the service and operation side. So I will give you a couple of examples for this, because digitization of the healthcare operations is extremely critical. And the healthcare sector is quite behind on this in terms of patient experience, managing these resources, managing the time efficiencies, effectiveness, and less errors and all of that. So when you look at the entire healthcare operations, it could be hospital, clinic, anywhere that you get the service, and that needs to be digitized. So any solution that can help to provide that service better, efficient, and then obviously the cost effective, that will bring the value up, that brings the immediate solution to the problem. The problem is the biggest problem, and overall on top of this, is we spend a lot of money and a lot of GDPs in the times of today for each country as quite a proportion. So that will certainly help that. So when I look at from the macroeconomic point of view, digitizations of the services and operations, and any solution comes in to support that is extremely important. And there are examples of it as the proper electronic medical records and managing the intensive care units effectively, and looking at your assets in the hospital and manage them assets, and not only equipment but also for your patients and the staff. So there's so many different solutions that touch to the outcome of it is again the cost-effective, efficient, and better quality service. So that's one example. But I want to give you one more example that people immediately think of. Okay, there is the problem in a certain disease. Let's say that we have a Parkinson's disease that we need to tackle as a big problem. So how I can resolve that is that solutions comes around it. So latest ones, specifically when COVID started, there are but some solutions came immediately to make a faster diagnosis for COVID-19 patients by utilizing imaging technologies with the AI. So those examples are obviously great to help immediate problem that needed to be addressed very quickly, and digital technologies help that to be implemented.
Great examples. And I think, I studied information technology in graduate school, and now 20 or so years later, I'm seeing all the things that were kind of new technologies at the time, or maybe not new, but they hadn't been commercialized. Now I'm seeing them really ingrained in the market. So what I got from what you just said, we have this technology, it exists. Now it is the job of putting it into implementing it, commercializing it so that it can be utilized by people. So it's not enough that the technology exists. There also needs to be people who know how to put it into operations, get it into the right hands, provide the financial support that's needed. So these are some great examples that you shared. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit too about your company, Diginova. And specifically, one of the things that we work on with GoGlobal when a startup comes to us is where's the right market for them to expand to. Sometimes it's North America, sometimes it's the Middle East, sometimes it's Europe, UK, Asia, Africa. So we're looking a lot at where to take a company when they're ready to grow. So you are really a specialist in your region. So maybe you could talk a little bit about how Diginova works, and specifically in the context of the GCC, and what kinds of companies are successful there. How will a company know if you're the right person for them to go to? How will they know when they're ready to come to you? So maybe you can talk about, what is I'm going to say good or appropriate about the region, but different technologies kind of grow well in different ecosystems. So maybe you could educate us a little bit about what you know about your region, what does well there, and who's the right fit to come to you and Diginova.
Well, I mean, you gave me guidance by saying ecosystem, right? This is very, very important to look at in each ecosystem. So I'll come to that. Let me tell you about Diginova, what we do. We are more of a business platform, work with the digital MedTech or digital tech, HealthTech solutions when they are ready to expand to another region, if the GCC is in their strategic expansion. But we do because the business we're in, when you are introducing a new solution, you really need to develop the markets. So because it's not like another ultrasound, it's something that it brings a different angle, innovative, sometimes disruptive, right? So there are sometimes you even see inventions in overall. So when you have such a solution going to a market, and it's not only you can go in and then start expecting the sales happen, and then you can grow immediately. So you have to do a lot of nitty-gritty work in terms of finding the key opinion leaders and regulators and creating the awareness, perception. A lot of work needs to be done for that. So I call it market development, obviously. So Diginova does a lot of those. So because we do understand what digital solutions and how they work. And then, of course, we have a big network and connections through our previous work through the decision makers in private sector and government, public sector. And by private sector, quite wide, because the target group could be pharma companies, insurance companies, and sometimes corporates, depends on what solutions we have. And of course, the public and all. So we're able to match that solution with their current problem. So what we do though is very critical. I think ecosystem is an issue, right? So when we go and look into the needs of the markets, and then we really talk to the CEOs, for example, of the hospitals, and when you realize when you talk to them, despite the fact that they have similar problems in terms of competition, the price point, the cost, and staff and HR, etc., but their expectation from digital solutions is very different. So it's very important to guide them, even the consumer or the customer, depends on what it is, to be able to match that what you have that will benefit for them. So it's not like some of the mistakes that we make is like this solution resolves X problem. Yeah, but this X problem is very, very high level. It might not resolve any problem for the customer at the moment, for that moment. So you mentioned that I go back to it, like we had the technologies available 20 years ago. I'll give you a perfect example. I was running one of the leading home healthcare companies in Turkey in early 2000s. We set it up and we wanted to do remote patient monitoring. Remote patient monitoring is for those of you who don't know much about, but they basically give the device to the patient at home, wherever they are, they carry it, and we monitor them real time. And the technology was available. Technology was available, and it was very much working good. And we try to bring it, but ecosystem, the payment system, consumer understanding, none of them was in the place. So then 20 years later, now is finally those companies in that space, in the technologies, they're making paves and a little bit movements. And because the payers start to get interested, if not payers, consumers start getting interested, and then the public domains get interested. So it depends on again, it was solving a big problem at that time. I mean, you can imagine managing your diabetes from distance by someone 20 years ago was available, but it wasn't at the time for people to resolve. So what I will always look at when we look into the companies and solutions, it will really bring a solution for this market, for this ecosystem. So that's why sometimes consumer-facing solutions might be a good one in a specific area, but not. And also, GCC is a name, is an umbrella name, but each country under GCC itself is a very, very different markets in terms of how you do business, how you deal with the regulators. So when you say I'm going to GCC, actually you should have another deep down plan that which country that you're going to go first, what type of obstacles, risks that you're going to get so you can mitigate. Those are all critical. So when we work with the companies, we look at each of these and then create a plan that what needs to be done. And sometimes, and as go back to what you said, the US or UK or Europe or GCC, and maybe the solution is wonderful, will work in US, and because of the different ecosystem, but it will never ever work in GCC. So we also look into that and see if it's possible or not, and then if it's possible that we partner with those companies that take in the market.
Yeah, great description of what someone needs to know, actually why they want to work with someone who's on the ground, where they want to grow. And I had a mentor of mine in Silicon Valley. She raised 2 angel funds, and she said, Tara, I travel around the world and I meet lots of startup companies, and they all want to come to Silicon Valley because, they think that's where the money is, that's where they will grow their company. And she said, but sometimes because of the technology, they need to go to Detroit, or they need to go to Nashville, or they need to go somewhere else. So you've just explained really well. Someone who doesn't know that region needs to meet with a partner who does understand the nuances in the different countries and what's going to be their best bet if that's where they want to grow, or to understand if that's not the right place for them. That will save them a lot of time and headache too.
That's
so
right.
You use the word mistake, and this was actually going to be my next question for you. So maybe we can pass it, but let me just see actually if anything comes to mind. So my question is, one mistake you see companies making when they come to you, maybe something they can think about before they come to you. They need to make sure they have done something, or they have something prepared, or maybe we can frame it more as advice, something they need to make sure they do before they come to you.
Yeah, when you talk about mistakes, so I will keep anybody out in my current partners at the moment, but I will tell you like general comments.
Okay.
So there's a quick disclaimer there. So depends on which stage they're in. So if the companies are been around for 4 or 5 years, they're generating revenues, they're in their country, and then they want to expand. The mistakes that they usually make, because they're successful in that country, and then they think that the things will be very similar in what they're used to. I'll give you one example. They're used to call somebody and get an appointment in 2 days, and then it will never work here. And there's different types of mechanisms work, for example. I mean, this is a very, very simple thing, because when you go into a market, you need to, interact with people, talk to people, etc. Even from that angle is sometimes difficult. And also because their products are good, their traction, their mature solution in place, sometimes they do have some interested party from this region, but the the relationships when you sign an agreement is very different here. And when someone says yes, very different than when someone says in another country yes. So that's another mistake, that they misunderstand that. And they say that, well, they told me yes, they're going to get it. Then 2 years later, the deal is still not done. And a third one, if they get the deal, and let's say that they have some good traction coming in, they think is a very sustainable, a very long term. And they need to understand that this will not be sustainable. There might be one-off, and it will not come after that. So those are the ones that fits into companies a little bit more advanced in their level. Companies with young ones, they're about to go to market, or they're recently in the market, or they're developing it. I think that, in my opinion, the biggest mistake they make is when it comes to their future projections. So they not always, I will take it back, they do look at the US market, UK markets, they look at the examples of competitors from those markets, and they make their projections based on those markets' examples. That's a mistake, because each market has different dynamics, and that even growth rates are different. Going to market implementation and market shares are different. So because of that, obviously expectations are high, then the valuations are high, their investors might not be happy. So that's I think the biggest mistake they make when they're planning to come to this market and what they will get in return.
Good. I think this is all really helpful for anybody who's thinking about coming into that region. So thank you. One thing I want to touch on a little bit is, our interaction, Diginova and GoGlobal, we pass opportunities and projects back and forth to each other. And we talk a lot about collaboration with our business partners at GoGlobal. So can you talk a little bit about how you interact with partners like GoGlobal, other people that you bring in to evaluate projects or help companies that you're working with? Can you talk a little bit about, our collaboration or what that means to the work that you do?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, I mean, this is although we started not too long ago, but I think the relationship built very quickly as we looked into various different types of engagements. So I think the one is quite clear path that some of your companies that you work with, that if they have the plans for GCC expansion, that we working to help through you, and what they need to do in terms of strategies first. And that will be more for you and them to make a decision to take that action. If they take that action, of course, that we could be potentially supporting them to come in here do that. So that's one angle. But the other angle is the companies that we have now we have at the moment 13 different companies from globally, and some from Europe, some from US, some from Turkey and Africa, etc. 13 companies, and some of them need some additional support. They're young companies, and they need GoGlobal support. So we also make a connection them with you to see that if you can help them out to come to the level that they would like to be, because some of them are the young companies. Although all of the companies we work with, they're commercialized already, but they're still in that pain of the growth, right? They have a good traction. They got a little bit seed money, but they need to grow. So those are the companies that we want GoGlobal to support them. So that's creating this network of investors also important. I think that's another area that we partner with, network with, either for the companies that you support, and that network investors that we have in this region is also will be interested to invest into those companies, and specifically if they have a story to come to this region. So people in this region like that west to east story. So it was a build and west, but coming to the east, and but with presence, and also critical. And some companies I see that depends on their locations. Maybe the country they're in might not get tractions of the foreign direct investments, and so they're kind of locked into local investors. So if they, and some of them come up with a strategy and say they move to another country, and to be able to bring a much more traction, it could be US, UK, it could be Dubai. So in that case, that we also partner with to see if we can set up for them as a Dubai company that attract more investors.
Yeah, that's really great. And what you've described is a good example of what I mean when I say mobilize resources. Resources can be money, can be finances, but it can also be expertise. It can be know-how. It can be relationships, networks. So you've just explained that really well. Thank you. So let's see. I think one more question, and then we can bring this to a close. What are you most excited about when it comes to the future of healthcare, digital healthcare? What you're seeing? What are you most excited about?
Well, I'm excited about so many things. It's hard to choose, but look, new technologies and all excites me. Even the fact that I am a little bit my feet on the ground. So my head excites, but my feet on the ground. So I do love AI. I do love to use blockchain in healthcare, but I also be mindful of how acceptance and perceptions of the users and community in healthcare of those. So I'm very, very interested. So I love those things. Those excite me. So anything that I'm very careful as well when someone says we have AI. And so then my feet on the ground, I start asking questions. What does that mean exactly? So it's very critical that healthcare digital technologies needs to come in effect when it comes to the blockchain too. So how we can make sure that the data we're kind of collecting is being secured, and the blockchain will help for that is very critical. So that excites me. But also what excites me is really to see in specifically the last 5 years, more and more and young minds and engineers and others and started to move into developing things in healthcare and MedTech and digital health. That excites me because I see the problem, but I see so many solutions for the problem. That's exciting. Of course, not great for the ones that created so many competitors in place, but it's amazing because that brain now started thinking about healthcare. I'm a healthcare person, so that's very important that such investments on the impact investments in healthcare is critical. Having that capacity being built to see that, and I think it will attract more private investors and more government funds to come into healthcare, so that way we can bring the level up. So I'm excited to see those people and really thinking about a solution for the healthcare problems.
This makes me happy to hear. I have been talking lately about how when there was the Black Plague in the world, that really this big pandemic, but after that we saw this renaissance coming out of Florence in Europe, and it was this renaissance in art and culture. And what I've been hearing and thinking about is, as we come out of this pandemic, we are poising ourselves for a new renaissance, and I think it's going to be in technology. So what you just described, what you're seeing, and we see it too at GoGlobal, that what young people are building, the problems that they're solving, it gives me a lot of hope and optimism for the world that we're building. So you've just also shared my own enthusiasm, and I appreciate that you are drawing our attention to that, and so thank you. So with that, we can wrap up here, and if there's anything you'd like to leave us with, Sarper, as we close, any advice, any thoughts, any insights?
No, I only want to send everyone good vibes, that who are thinking innovative and be frontier and always pioneer.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. I like good vibes. So, okay. So to close us out here, I will thank you for watching. If you got something out of this interview, Please leave us your top takeaway in the comments. If you would like, take a screenshot, share this on Instagram, tag Dr. Sarper, tag GoGlobal, share your top takeaway, share this with another innovator that you know if it can be helpful to them. I will leave all the information for Dr. Sarper in the comments here in the description, so you can contact him and contact GoGlobal, and we'll see you in the next interview. Thank you, Sarper.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.